Hi, I'm going to talk about some current events that are happening in Iran and some reflection on the international scene. Well, many Americans they don't look at foreign media. They're, they're stuck in their own mainstream media, and I noticed that they really miss when something happens internationally. Say, for example, war breaks out, but nobody was looking all the little steps and things that happened before the broke out. There were all these provocations on each side, and then things just went out of hand. Well, if you listen to Iranian media, you see some very strange things that are happening right now. For example, Khamenei, the spiritual leader of Iranian government, in his speeches, he's saying that we are making a promise to all these people that were asking that there will be a revenge on Israel and United States for these assassinations, as if like the government is telling people, hey, don't lose hope. There will be a payback, but I want to do it the right way, something like that. It's like most Iranians, they're so insulted that their generals and scientists were assassinated, and they're just wondering why there isn't a retaliation. Well, then another thing that happened is that uh, the Iranian law is going to find this way, its long hand into many places in the world where these significant Zionists or Americans they can go and hide. They are not beyond our reach anymore, and but there is a psychic predictions by Edgar Casey saying that there will come a time in the history of United States that most Americans won't be safe anywhere in the world or even in the United States. And I think that times are upon us. But it's so sad that I have so many topics that are so interesting, scientific or spiritual, and even artistic, and I'm kind of channeled to constantly go into topics that have to do with militarism, with warfare, with taking revenge, killing Zionist criminals, or catching up with U.S. CIA. Like, my whole presentations have become skewed in these off the wall topics. It's kind of very distractive, actually. There is so many other things that I should be doing. One of the things that became a casualty is my career as an artist, as an actor. Well, I started playing some movies, and I gradually, all the movies that I was playing in, they became more and more violent. I played in Behind the Enemy Line. I always was typecasted into like a foreign fighter or terrorist that gets killed, or somebody that is at odds with society, and the society just kind of what is actually happening is that the old society that we had and operated on push technology. I mean, somebody in Central Command, generated some philosophies and ways of doing things, and kind of pushed it through mainstream media onto the population. But that society died after COVID-19 because the push technology it relies on physical world, relies on broadcasting into the real world. Whereas the society after COVID-19 has migrated towards cyberspace, towards um, towards things just coming from the grassroots, from society itself, not from some higher echelon down. One of the things I'm very happy about is that I'm able to talk to family, to my mom, to my other brothers. It's like, well, I'm using WhatsApp, but I could use Zoom. It's like I had a role. I was the oldest brother, was like the father. I just took off to United States and other places and squandered all this time, and the rest of the family just went along, and there was like a big void, like, this it was the seat of the father. Well, my father passed away too, it made things a lot worse, and then it's like I've come back now. I My money is influencing the family, like they're receiving support, and I'm also there. They can access me via video. It's like I came back, and they had lost their father, and then I came back and took over a role that I was supposed to have all these years. But then this process is repeating in so many other areas. I was talking with my mom where we're gonna buy some property, but not in my name, in her name. And then uh, I don't know if, as long as she's alive, she's gonna have it, and then I don't care what we're gonna do afterwards. Maybe I go back and give it away or sell it or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm able to do things that as if I was there, as if I'm actually a person that lives in Iran and has extra cash to blow away. Um, I think I'm going to be giving my brothers and my sister a bunch of cryptocurrencies to sell. Well, that's the kind of like a job that I created. My brother, he's a really good salesman. I think I'm going to give him a bunch of dead cryptocurrencies to sell for a penny a coin. I don't know. It's interesting to be able to do all these things, and but the the problems, the warfare, it keeps interfering. I was watching Iranian news that the Iraqis, the remaining puppet politicians that the United States has in there, they send a delegation to Iran because it's the anniversary for murder of General Soleimani is coming up or is upon us, and then the Iraqi puppet regime or whatever is left of it is trying to prevent retaliation. And well, I feel that the karma is going to catch up with the U.S. military, and they will get their payback in lost lives and equipment. Who knows? But the society keeps going on. Everybody is just moving on. I was watching another program that Iran is making a lot of train rails everywhere. From even Afghanistan is partnering with Iran. They made rails from Herat into Iran, and then the railing goes all the way to the Indian Ocean or away southern part of Iran. So basically, they're connecting to the world through a rail system that's not controlled by Pakistani terrorists or everybody's moving on, and it's interesting to see if the remaining small pockets of American forces here and there they'll get demolished and they have to move on too. But that's the realization that the Americans have to realize that themselves. Well, I was going to talk about extrajudicial arrest. Well, there is a law in the United States, the Supreme Court law that says that it doesn't matter how a person that was out of the reach of the courts, like if he was, if somebody committed murder here in the United States and went all the way to, I don't know, New Zealand, and then there were bounty hunters went all the way to New Zealand and grabbed him and brought him before the court here. Well, that's the kind of like abduction, human abduction. But the court decision says, oh, well, we don't care. He committed crimes and he's before us, so we're gonna kick his ass here now. Well, what's good for the goose is also good for the gander, and I think this we are entering an era where Iranian secret police might be going to a lot of places and grabbing like ex-Mossad and ex-CIA and ex-President Bush. Oh, we got a nice hotel in Iran for you. The name of this hotel, and by the way, it has great food. It's called Hotel Evin. Have you heard of Evin prison? Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be shy. Americans, they go around assassinating significant politicians and scientists. We could do the same, but we should kind of give it an aura of legitimacy, like have court proceedings in absence. Say, for example, we know we're going to grab President Bush in the near future. We should have a public court trial and condemn him to death, and then the world will see it, and the world is gonna kind of shrug it off and says, "Oh, who's gonna drag President Bush to Iran?" But then unlikely things are happening in our world because there is technological leaps, and some countries they have stopped innovating militarily, innovating technologically, but other countries like Iran that were desperate 10, 20, 30 years ago, they haven't. I think that the last cyber attack in the United States was the works of Iranians. It wasn't the Russians or the Chinese or North Koreans, and they attacked many sensitive sites in the United States. Who knows? I read this book. It's called The Future of Violence. Maybe we'll come up at some point with these mini drones. Some transport ship dropping by U.S. coast. And the drone goes in, assassinates APAC top-ranking officials, or kills off Bush and Bolton, and then goes back into its transport vehicle and transported back. I mean, there is a future to wars, there is a future to violence, and there is a future to extrajudicial killings. Well, the only time that the Iranian people and the Iranian government was able to significantly influence U.S. foreign policy and or even stop them from doing stupid things was during the hostage crisis. We took their diplomats hostage, and they didn't do jack because something could happen to those diplomats. Oh, well, what if we continued with this policy and we grabbed many of their military personnel that we could get, and their diplomats, their ex-presidents, they are very good human, collateral, they deeply care about these assholes that are totally useless, but then we can influence them, stop them from waging war on us. This is a great deal. Well, actually, I was watching another program. Well, all these programs are in Farsi, and the Americans just completely ignore it. But they were saying that Iranian government were practicing jumping the ships, U.S. ships, and grabbing everybody on the ship. Well, this has happened before. They did it with one military ship. Well, what if we can do it with many military ships? We should have human collateral, like, I don't know, 10,000 or so of Americans, 10,000 or so Zionist criminals, Mossad officials. We should have our own underground prisons, keep these people there working, making shoes for us, and they're a collateral. Make sure these belligerent nations, they don't do something bad. This is a very old game, and many courts, many royal courts or governments, they engage in it openly or secretly. Well, we should too. We should have these people under our thumb, and we should be the one telling them, hey, don't do anything stupid. Don't be sending troops and spies into our territory. We just kill off 10 of your ex-CIA tomorrow. Do you like these guys? And isn't this a great savings in our lives and our equipment and our territory? Why should we be always at the West mercy? Why shouldn't they be at our mercy? Anyhow, well, if we don't need a country, if we don't have significant economic relations with France, even though France was so important to us maybe 100 years ago, but it's not, and they're doing nothing but support Israel and instigate and make a little smart remarks and end up in our jail here and there. If these relations, they don't do anything for us except aggravation, if they're sanctioning us, then what if we didn't have these relations with many countries, like with France, with Britain, we don't have any relations with the US or Israel, but our foreign policy or our foreign ministers will become free to make friends with the countries that are friendly to us. We have economic relations. I wouldn't give up on Germany, but the rest of them, they can go. All this property and investments that pro-Western Iranians have made, we should sell them off and use the money for poor people, make roads, you know, and let these guys go. Let them. Well, there comes a time that like the prisons they do this thing. Like there is this guy, he been in prison for like 20 years. Like 25 years ago, he killed two, three people, but he's an old fart now. He's got all these diseases. You know, it's just a chore to keep him, and he's not going to be a threat to society. He's going to be just, you know, in the nursing home somewhere. Just kick him out of the prison too. Well, isn't the relations that we Iranians have in many countries similar to this? It's like we have them in our prisons, in our diplomatic prisons. They cannot do anything. They're not good for anything. They cause nothing but trouble, and they influence other assholes inside Iran. Or what if we just got rid of them, asked them to leave, and just kept a certain collateral to make sure that they don't come back? Something like that. Well, my video, I'm gonna call it Zionists, Yankees, and the Human Collateral Game. It's a very profitable game. It's legal. Many countries do it. We should too. We should engage in it. Well, my stuff is research, and you don't find this stuff anywhere on the internet. Well, you might find it in Farsi. You have to kind of be Iranian, have that culture to understand what's going on. But so please don't be shy. Leave comment and subscribe.